Okay, why don't we just get started? So, welcome everybody for tonight's town hall meeting. It is a special privilege and honor to welcome Mike Spagnoletti.
Did you get muted, Tilo?
For numerous years. He has been on the executive board for numerous years, and it is always a pleasure to converse with him. So, Mike, why don't you take it away? Thank you so much for being here.
All right, Tilo, thank you. All right, everybody. I'm just going to make sure that he's muted. We should be good now. I don't think anybody should be hearing any feedback right now. Thank you for the invitation to come out and speak tonight. If anybody has any questions, please shoot them on chat. You can unmute yourself, but we kind of get feedback whenever I try to respond. So I'll do my best to follow the chat. And if I miss it, Tim, if you could just go ahead and jump on and ask the question for them if I don't see it while I'm teaching, that would be great. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. For everybody that doesn't know me, I recognize a bunch of names there. I am a retired Allegheny County police officer. I was in law enforcement for over 31 years, and now I'm a criminal justice professor. I actually teach at, I'm an adjunct professor at CCAC, the Allegheny campus and South campus. I teach classes at both. I think the PA West site says IUP. Actually, I teach in the IUP Police Academy system, and I taught at the Allegheny County Police Academy for over 18 years. So today we're going to talk about, and everybody should be seeing the verbal de-escalation persuasion PowerPoint slide I have up. We're going to talk about dealing with difficult people. We're going to talk about ways to kind of de-escalate or persuade somebody to see your side, or at least move them in the direction you want them to move into. I hope this helps this presentation. I know from the many years I spent coaching and the many years I spent as president, I know that in sports and in soccer particularly, things can get heated. They can get heated between the ref and the coach, between the ref and the fans, between the fans and the coaches, and even the fans, believe it or not, and I know you all know this, the fans and the players. And even when we're looking at so many of you involved with or running youth leagues, believe it or not, we got parents yelling at elementary and middle school children because they can't control themselves, whether it's they're unwilling to or they're just unable to. So there's no cure-all for this. I'm going to try to help you, and I hope that you pass some of this information off to your coaches, to your officials, as well as any of your parents. So I got feedback from somebody. There we go. Let me shut that one off. So anyways, I hope you were able to pass this off. So let's talk about some of these slides here that I have. Give me 1 second. Okay. First of all, this is pretty common sense. How do you know when you're being personally or physically threatened? When it happens, you're going to know that. You're going to feel that. And often I tell people to listen to your instincts. If it feels like somebody's, kind of trying to intimidate you, chances are they are trying to do that. So what is verbal de-escalation? When I started in law enforcement, probably about 5 or 10 years into it, there was a big incident that we dealt with here in Pittsburgh that happened in the South Hills area of the city, and we had an individual that died in police custody. Not the first one, hasn't been the last one. But one of the things that they started teaching after this incident was something called verbal judo. This was a program, a canned program that was put together by, I think he was a doctor, PhD, and he put this program together, and all officers were required in my department to go through mandatory verbal judo training. So we're going to talk about that. Now they call it verbal de-escalation, but it kind of began with us under verbal judo. And when we use this in law enforcement, and I teach this at businesses, at schools, and things like that, we use this whenever there's a potentially dangerous or even threatening situation, and we're trying to prevent that person from causing harm to us, someone else, or even themselves. And many of you may have come across this. Not just, again, we're dealing with young people who have emotional issues sometimes, mental health issues, that out on the field, they lose control and you're trying to calm them down. It's not just about dealing with the irate parent. It's not just dealing with the coach who can't control themselves. It's also helping us deal with the young people, or even high school, or even adults, for those of you in the adult leagues, helping them deal with issues that they're going, stress and strain and things that they're going under. So we're trying to keep them from anybody getting harmed. We don't want to use physical force. So this training hopefully will help that. It really, verbal de-escalation really consists of tactics that are used to help limit the number of people who might be injured on the job, and we hope limit to zero. When we talk about physical force, we don't want to use physical force. It's never recommended. Have there been times, even as a coach, that I've had to physically restrain a player who was out of control? Yes. Do we want to put our hands on people? No, we don't want that to happen. We don't want that to happen. But I've had to sit through hearings where referees were assaulted, and where we had people go out of control. And there's times that you might have to. Hopefully, it can be dealt with prior to that, or if it comes to it, that you have somebody there, law enforcement or something, that's able to deal with it. Physical force should only be used as a last resort to prevent injury to yourself or somebody else. Use of physical force usually results in someone getting hurt. It's just how it is, even in law enforcement. We don't want to use it. It's not something we set out for. There are 5 universal truths, and these are truths. All cultures want to be respected and treated with dignity, regardless of the situation. Everyone wants to be treated with dignity. It doesn't matter who you are. All people would rather be asked than told what to do. The problem is, sometimes we have to tell them what to do for their own safety. All people want to know why they are being asked or told to do something. Sometimes we don't have the time to be able to tell them, explain to them, but they want to be. So if you have that in mind, maybe you're able to handle it a little bit better. The fourth one is, all people would rather have options than threats. So when you threaten somebody, you limit the options. And sometimes they're going to take the wrong option. All people want a second chance to make matters right. They do. But again, some people feel backed into a corner and they have no other options. We talk about verbal judo, the term that I used earlier. In Japanese, ju means gentle and do means way. Okay, so it's talking about a more gentle way. Okay, it's just, to many people, verbal abuse is the greatest abuse. Now, I'm not minimizing physical abuse, because when we deal with children, which I've dealt with, parents who have abused their children, I've arrested them. My department arrests a lot of them each year. I'm not saying that minimize that. I'm just saying that verbal abuse takes its toll on people. It takes its toll. The most dangerous weapon is really the cocked tongue. And when we say cocked tongue, we mean, just like a firearm. It's ready to go off at any moment. How many of you find yourself ready to, you're so busy thinking about what you're going to say that you don't think about actually paying attention and listening to what the other person's saying, because you want to respond. You want to react. And I've done it, where I'm not focusing on what's being said. You're not being an active listener, as we say. There are really 3 types of people in this world. There's nice people that, will go out of their way to help people. They're easy to deal with. There's difficult people that are going to question everything. Why? I've dealt with it with my children on many times. And there's those people, they term them as wimps, but they're those people who are just, easy to walk all over. They'll be stepped all over, okay? And it's great to be a nice person, but you have to know when enough's enough. You don't want to become a wimp. And the principle of judo is really not to resist your opponent. When we resist is when we have trouble. It's really to move with them and redirect their energy. When someone throws a punch at you, instead of trying to block it and punch back, you take that arm and you redirect it and you put them down using their own momentum and their own weight. And that's what this verbal de-escalation is about. When you ignore or dismiss a person or a question, it's the same as resisting it. You have to understand that. When someone's asking you a question and you say, I don't have time for this right now, or I'm not going to answer you. I'm not saying you do have time. And I'm saying to take an hour to explain it to them. But you can take a second to acknowledge the question, and just dismissing it or ignoring it, it's only going to make it worse. Why? So the question, why? Why do you think you are telling me what to do? Or who do you think you are telling me what to do? Where do you get your authority? What's in it for me? These are all questions that we see. When we talk about verbal de-escalation, the point is to motivate a disagreeable person to a point of voluntary compliance, to get them to do what you want them to do. And listen, we all want to win an argument. We all want to win an argument. Remain calm. Keep your cool. Sometimes you have to take a little bit of their crap within reason. Give them a second to vent within reason. But don't let them see they get to you, because when someone sees that they get to you, it's like a shark with blood, or it's like picking at a scab. If you let them pick at that scab, if you let them get to you and you show that, then they're going to continue. We've seen that with parents on the sideline. We've seen that with them when they're dealing with the ref. If you see that they're, sometimes the best course is either ignoring it or having someone from the team go over and deal with it instead of trying to argue back. If you can. We talk about if you fight back and you resist the affront, okay, you give it life and you give it credibility. If you defend yourself, you invite counterattack. And I'm not talking about a physical assault. I am not talking about that. I'm talking about somebody that's running their mouth, okay? I'm talking about somebody that runs their mouth. Verbally, like I said, you want to move them in your direction, okay? You want to show understanding or an agreement to a point. You want to get them to see your side of things. Make them believe that it was their idea. I've had people that when I was working patrol that I've given citations to. I had one guy, I gave him 6 tickets, but I cut him a break on 2 other ones that weren't a big deal. His car was being towed. He was leaving with the tow truck driver. He jumped out of the truck to come over and shake my hand and thank me for cutting him a break. And it's how I dealt with that situation. He still left with 6 citations. I had a guy I went to court with. He lost in court. Send me a thank you card afterwards for the way I treated him. He lost. He had to pay a fine. He was found guilty. And again, you don't have to do things the difficult way all the time or ever, in all honesty. You want to subdue this enemy without fighting. You want to stay out of their face and out of their space. Don't go toe-to-toe with somebody. It's not worth it. Okay? Treat everyone as if they are important and their problem and its resolution are important to you. Okay? You want to deflect their attack in a positive way. I'm assuming that everybody here is adults. Is that true, Tim? Tim?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna. I will say this. I had an individual on the 31st Street Bridge in traffic, sitting about 10 cars back in traffic, and he sticks his head out the window. This is before they redid Route 28, and traffic was backed up. I'm running the light there, and it's always a hectic place. There's 6 different lane roads that come in before they changed the intersection and built that bridge over top. There were 6 different roads: Rialto Street, 28, River, Hers Island, I think it was, and then the 31st Street Bridge. And this guy's sitting in traffic, waiting for the light to change, and he gets irate. And he sticks his head and his body out the window, and he yells, "Traffic's backed up all the effing way across the GD Bridge." And he said, he's yelling it. And I hear him, and I look at him, and I say to him, "Huh? What?" And I heard what he said, but I said, "What?" Traffic's busy. So now he's about 5 cars closer to me, 5 cars before he turns onto Route 28 because the cars are moving up a little bit. And he yells again, this time the same thing. "Traffic's backed up all the GD way across the effing bridge." And he's hanging out past his waist. I thought he was going to fall out of the car. This time I looked at him, and all I said to him is I held my hand up, and I said, "Oh, okay, thank you." I said, "Thank you." Now he's just about to turn the corner, so his car's moving up as I'm responding. And this time he's hanging out. I thought he was going to fall out of his car. And he looks at me and he yells, "Pfft," and he didn't know what to say. How does he respond to "thank you"? He didn't know what to say. He was about to say "F you," but all I said was "thank you" for the information. Obviously, I didn't know traffic was backed up, right? I couldn't see the 10,000 cars coming through my intersection during this period of time. I just said "thank you." I thanked him for the information. He didn't know what to say. That was the end of it. I deflected his attack in a positive way, and I left it right there. Okay? To be a good communicator is to learn how to be an active listener. And I talked about this a little bit earlier. No other activities when you're listening. You're not thinking about what you're going to respond with. You're listening to what that person has to say. Multitasking is not good when you're listening. Like right now. How many of you are actually doing other things while you're listening to me? You may not get the whole message. Luckily, like Tim said, he's going to put it on their page. But again, be an active listener. Don't think about your response. And I do it. I have to concentrate on not wanting to respond. And everybody that was with me on the boards, and many of you that know me in here, you know that I can be quick to respond. I have to sometimes take a minute to hear what people are saying. There's 3 main listening skills: attending, following, and reflecting. Attending is giving your physical and mental attention to another person. Physical and mental. You know, our body language says a lot when we're listening to people. The way you know, in that, like this, and you're looking around, not paying attention. What happens when one of your players, for those of you that coach, one of your players is doing this while you're talking to them? You know they're not listening, and you know they're intentionally doing this. Well, what happens when you do that when somebody comes up to you, a parent or a referee or somebody else? You're not listening. Following, the second one, following, making sure you are engaged by using eye contact. Use unintrusive gestures. I tell you, nodding your head, saying okay, or asking an infrequent question. Reflecting, paraphrasing, or paraphrasing and reflecting using the feelings of the other person. Empathy. Empathy is a very strong, very powerful word. Empathy. Effective de-escalation. When you talk about to verbally de-escalate another person, you must open as many clear lines of communication as possible. Okay, both you and the other person must listen to each other, and have no barriers to this communication. And I know you can dictate what the other person's doing, but you can't make them do what you want them to do. But you'd be surprised by the way you treat them and by the way you talk to them and the way you listen to them, how quickly you can actually dictate the way they're going to respond. That judo, right? Using their momentum against them. Barriers to communication are the things that keep the meaning of what is being said from being heard. Things such as prejudging. How many times people say, I've been with officers who, you see somebody and right away you look at them, dirtbag, right? So we know that this person, if they were to see me now, they would think I was a dirtbag with my long hair and my beard. If I were to go throw some torn jeans and an old dirty shirt on and walk down the street, you would think I was homeless. So you really don't know. You can't prejudge. Not listening, criticizing, name calling. It's easy to jump into name calling, especially with social media now. Man, people are so quick to be able to jump back. And I find myself sometimes, it really, really takes a lot of energy and effort sometimes to hold back on what I want to say or type. And I don't always do it, but I work hard at it. I work hard to try to, at least keep my stuff to facts. Don't engage in a power struggle. This is a barrier. Ordering somebody to do something, threatening, minimizing, even arguing are all barriers. Some of the tactics that you should do, I said these are things you should use, okay? Simply listen, said that. Distracting the other person. You'd be surprised how, and I'm not saying, hey, look at that, and go run away so you don't have to listen to them. But sometimes you can change the conversation and pull them away from that with a simple distraction. Okay, refocus the other person on something more positive, okay? Changing the subject. Not just, they're talking and you just change the subject. People are going to get ticked off about that. Use humor, but that's sparingly, okay? You want to be careful. You want to lighten the mood. Be very careful with this one, because if you don't know humor and sarcasm are two different things. And from Western Pennsylvania, we are sarcastic. I do sarcastic very well, okay? And some of you I know in here do the same thing, okay? You're very good at sarcasm. Not as good as me, but you're good at it. And that's not humor. Okay, we want to try to lighten the mood, bring the tensions down, but you have to be careful. If you don't know how to use it, don't. You want to motivate that other person. When they're upset and they're aggravated, you want to pull them over. I've had my players so fuming, they're red, they're crying. I've had players that are crying, they're so upset, and I've tried to I've calmed them down, and I've been able to motivate them and change the trajectory of everything that's going on there. Empathize with the other person. Understand that. If we can get our parents to empathize with what the referee's doing and understanding that the refs aren't going to see everything, okay? They're going to miss things. And not just our parents, our coaches and our players. We want to empathize with them. There are other ways to deal with a complaint than to put it out on the field right then and there. As many of you that are leaders in your organizations, you need to make sure your parents understand the avenues for them to complain, so that they can stay away from doing it while they're out there on the field. Okay, while they're out there at the sideline, dealing with at the end lines or sidelines or whatever, dealing with this. The same thing with our coaches on the benches and things like that. Give them choices. People like choices. Setting limits. Okay, we got to make sure there's limits to what's going on here. I used the word empathy. The word empathy, break it down. M is Latin, to see through. Empathy is Greek, the eye of the other. To see through the eye of the other. Do you understand what they're dealing with? You're so quick, even with us dealing with our players. Do you know what they're going through in life? How many of you, and I hope you all do, take the time to actually talk and deal with their players? In a decade and a half plus, almost 20 years of coaching, I'm proud to say that every one of my girls and my players went on to graduate and went on to some type of college, some kind of a tech school or something where they were able to get a job. And now they're coming back and seeing me. They're running into me in different places. All of them. Okay. I don't have them going out and getting arrested and getting in trouble. Because I took the time to actually be part of their lives, and their parents would come to me. And that was the hardest part of being a police officer and a coach, is I've had so many of the parents would come to me when their children, so many of the parents came to me when their daughters started dating and wanted me to talk to the boy, talk to the boy in my best police officer speech to make sure he understood the what could happen to them, like I did with my 4 daughters. Okay, but these kids still to this day contact me on Facebook, their friends, their parents. I had one contact me that I coached, a young man that I coached just a week ago, because there was an issue relating to one of his ex-girlfriends who was assaulted, and it was a borderline situation, and he needed advice, and he came to me. And so it's about, I deal with my players. I have empathy for them. And we can do that with our parents. You'd be surprised how many parents have come to me as well. So I said, be empathetic. Do not be judgmental. Do not ignore the person or pretend to be paying attention. Listen to what they're really saying. Restate, clarify, repeat the message if necessary. Validate. I understand why. You're not in agreement with, but you're validating what they're saying. I understand why you're upset. I understand that you see that the way you saw it, this was not right. But let me explain to you, or let me take a minute that we can kind of come to some understanding. Okay, we may not agree, but we can agree to disagree, or we can at least agree to look at it from the other person's point of view. Okay, you want to try to establish some type of a rapport with that other person, some type of a rapport. 80 to 90% of our communication is nonverbal. 80 to 90%. It is very important to be able to identify exactly what we are communicating to others nonverbally. Excuse me. You may be trying to de-escalate the situation by talking to that other person, but your body language is showing them a willingness to get physical or an unwillingness to really listen. I'm standing there and I'm trying to de-escalate and I'm hovering over them. I'm leaning towards them instead of leaning back or standing straight up. I'm balling my fist, or I'm standing in a posture and I'm separating my legs where I'm standing, where I'm blading myself like I'm ready to fight. Okay. And you'd be surprised, like you think you're de-escalating, but you're not, because your body language is telling them something else. It is also important that we recognize and understand the non-verbal cues, these indicators, these cues, not clues, cues from another person who has the potential of escalating. What are the things that they're doing that could lead to an escalation? When people are angry, they don't listen, okay? They don't listen to the words that are being said. Remember the difference between hearing and listening. We want to listen. Often they do see and react to what you are saying with your body language. You must always be very careful with the message you're sending. You must be very careful. Finger pointing. It may seem accusing or threatening to them. Shoulder shrugging may seem uncaring or unknowing. When you do this, whatever, right? Rigid walking may seem unyielding or challenging. Your jaw set, your clenched teeth, shows that you are not open-minded to listening to his or her side of the story. A natural smile is good, but a fake smile can aggravate the situation. You can tell when somebody's got a fake smile, right? Use slow and deliberate movements. I'm not talking about being robotic, but quick actions. Somebody's going to jump back or they're going to fight back. Okay. They may surprise or scare the other person. So you don't want to be jarring in that sense. Okay. We talk about your eyes, one eyebrow raised. That insinuates sternness. Eyes open wide, surprise, right? A hard stare, threatening gesture. Closing eyes longer than normal. I'm not listening. People do this, right? I'm not listening, and or change your message, right? That's closing eyes long. Change your message. This may be a warning that you are unintentionally escalating the situation. Talk about personal space, right? I said earlier, get out of my space, get out of my space. Invasion or encroachment of personal space tends to heighten or escalate the anxiety. Personal space is usually about 1.5 to 3 feet away from the person, okay? In between that area, far enough so that you cannot be hit or kicked. In law enforcement, we teach our officers to stand about 2 arms lengths away from the person so that we have time to react, whether to our taser, our pepper spray, our gun, God forbid, or our hands if necessary. But when we're dealing with somebody, when you get too close to them, people feel uncomfortable. When I'm dealing with, especially elderly people, like elderly women or single people, females, they start to back up. How do you know? How do you know? Again, when they start to back up, you know you're in their personal space. When they start to kind of do this, it's time to stop. You're encroaching in their personal space. Do not touch a hostile person. Put your hand on. I'm gonna, try to escort them. Don't do that because they're going to interpret it as an aggressive action. Keep your hands visible at all times. You do not want the other person to misinterpret your physical actions. Okay. You don't want them to do that. We talk about a challenging posture. Challenging postures that tend to threaten another person and escalate any situation are things like face to face, nose to nose, toe to toe, eyeball to eyeball, touching, finger pointing. We've mentioned these. We want to protect ourselves while de-escalating another person. You want to be in a non-threatening, non-challenging, but a self-protecting position. I talked earlier about blading yourself. You can kind of do a partial blade to protect yourself and keep your hands where, make sure you're able to raise them if you have to, but keep them in sight without making it into a challenging or some type of a fight or flight type of a situation. Slightly more than a leg's length away, like I said, on an angle and off to the side of the other person. You don't want to be directly in front of them. And this is more when we're dealing with police officers. We try to pick their, we look at what's their strong hand. How do we determine it? Sometimes by the way they wear their watch, things they're holding, the hand they may be pointing with. And when that happens, we want to make sure that we maybe move off to the side a little bit, just enough of an angle from them so that they can't grab us. Okay, just far enough so they can't kick, grab, or hit us if it came down to that, which we hope it doesn't. Okay. Matt Potts wants to know if there's going to be a test. For you, Matt, there is a test. You using this computer is test enough. Okay. Use your voice, tone, volume, your rate of speech, the inflection of your voice. We start to talk higher, faster. We got to make sure we keep that all in check as well. A lowered voice level may set a tone of anger, which could create a fear or challenges. And I'm not talking about, keeping an even keel voice. I'm talking about when you lower yourself like you're getting mad. Okay, a raised voice may set a tone of anticipation or uncertainty, which may promote excitement or disruption. Speak slowly. This is usually interpreted as soothing, right? We want to calm the beast, right? A controlled voice is one of calm and firmness, which promotes confidence in everybody involved, in both parties. We talked about humor earlier. It may unintentionally offend someone and escalate the situation. Use humor sparingly and always direct humor towards yourself, okay? Be very careful when attempting humor in this type of situation. Be respectful to the other person. When someone says, they say, I already told you once. I'm saying, I'm sorry. I'm old. I don't always hear things. I just missed it. I apologize. Or you know what? I have to wear glasses now. I didn't see this. My mistake. Go ahead and tell me again because I couldn't hear it or I didn't see it. Show it to me again, okay? It's my fault. And I'm using humor. I'm kind of, in a way, kind of deflecting this situation. said be respectful, using please and thank you, Mr. and Mrs. You know, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith, I understand. I want to work. I want to make sure we're on the same page here, but I want to make sure you understand where I'm coming from, and I want to hear where you're coming from. Okay. We talked about inflection. It's just listen to these sentences, okay? Because this is important. How many of us do this? How many of us do this? Okay. Here we go. What do these words mean? I didn't say you were stupid. Okay. I didn't say you were stupid. Your brother did, right? I didn't say you were stupid. I didn't say you were stupid, but I did write it on the bulletin board, right? I didn't say you were stupid. I said your brother was stupid. And I didn't say you were stupid. I said you were a complete idiot. Think about the way I said that same sentence in each one of those, with the emphasis being on those individual words. And think about how, I didn't say you were stupid. See how that's different? I didn't emphasize any one of those words. I didn't emphasize. But when you do, it says a different thing. Same sentence, 4 ways, says a different thing. Or people hear it a different way. Take a second and think about what you're saying. Things not to do. Avoid becoming emotionally involved. Control your emotions at all times. Avoid engaging in power struggles. Avoid becoming rigid in your process. Be open. Maybe there is change. Maybe you need to do something different. Avoid telling the other person that you know how he or she feels. So saying I understand isn't saying the same as I know how you feel. Really? You didn't walk a mile in my shoes. How the hell do you know how I feel or what I'm going through? It's a difference. Okay? There's a different way of saying things. Avoid raising your voice. Avoid cussing, making threats, giving ultimatums or demands. Avoid aggressive language, including body language. Do not attempt to intimidate a hostile person. Because even the smallest person will fight back when they feel that they're cornered or they feel that you're leaving them with no other course of action here. Okay? We're almost done here. I want to share some wisdom that was imparted upon me back when I started learning verbal judo. This is not just for those of you dealing with parents, referees, coaches, or this is for you dealing with your husband, your wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, family members. These are 11 things never to say to anyone. Okay? Come here. Come here. What am I, a dog? You wouldn't understand. How do you know what I would understand? Go ahead and tell me. Maybe I'd surprise you. Because those are the rules. Why don't you bring out a newspaper and start whacking them on the nose? Because those are the rules. Well, that's not acceptable. I want to know why. And maybe you don't have time to go into it, but we can change the way we respond. It's none of your business. When you say that to somebody, they're going to go out of their way to make it their business or to find out what the hell you're talking about. What do you want me to do about it? Really? I just spent a half an hour freaking telling you what I want you to do about it, and you're saying, what do you want me to do about it? How about this one? I love this one. Calm down. Calm down. Calm down. I am calm. You want to see someone who's not calm? Calm down. What's your problem? Really? I just told you what my problem was. You're my problem. How about this? Guys, ladies, don't use this with your spouses. You never or you always. Those are absolutes, and you back yourself into a corner. I used to always say, my wife would come up and say, you never take out the trash. And I'd pull a little tablet out beside my table, beside my chair, and I'm like, here, right here. July 3rd, 1992, took out trash right here. You never. When you use absolutes, you back yourself into a corner, and all they have to do is just prove you wrong. Just one part of what you said wrong. And now all of a sudden it minimizes, it neutralizes your entire comments. Okay. I'm not going to say this again. Oh, hell, you will. You better believe it, because I'm going to keep at you. You're going to say it again. I'm doing this for your own good. Once again, why don't you just spank them while you're at it? Please don't do that. I'm not telling you to do that. But I'm doing this for your own good. Why don't you be reasonable? That's like saying calm down. Reasonable? You want to see reasonable? I'll show you reasonable. I'll climb up in that tower with a rifle. I'll show you reasonable. Okay, why don't you be reasonable? These are 11 things you don't say to anyone. Remain calm. Listen. Really listen. Okay? Avoid overreaction. Validate. I understand why you might be upset. This does not indicate that you agree with them. Move onlookers or relocate to a safer place. You want the crowds. I mean, we used to get the crowds around us, and they're trying to aggravate the situation. And people will tend to do that. Other parents will be out there to say, "Sir, can I talk to you over here, or, ma'am, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Jones? Can I please let's go over here and talk where we can have a conversation where we can hear each other." Okay. Onlookers can either become cheerleaders, or they could be additional victims, or they could be additional, I'll use the word perpetrators, but somebody who's going to act out. Send an onlooker for help if you need help. If it's out of control, you need additional help, send somebody to go grab another coach on the field, grab a board member, or if it comes down to it, law enforcement. Watch for nonverbal cues or threats. Bring in another trained person to assist whenever possible. And all of you should take the time to train your coaches and your volunteers and even your parents on ways to not only deal with this and de-escalate, but on ways to act responsibly. Okay, there is less chance of aggressive behavior if two people are talking to one person, but be careful because you start going back and forth, and if you're not on the same page, you can make it worse. You don't want a good cop, bad cop situation. That's not what it's about. But the second person might be able to help or lend credence or credibility to what you're saying. Alert someone, I said that. As soon as possible, no help will arrive until someone else knows your situation. Until then, you're all alone. Two heads are always better than one to a point. There is safety in numbers. We teach that from the very beginning to our youngest children. It will be beneficial to have a witness if necessary, if it becomes a problem, if it deteriorates and we need law enforcement, or if you're going to end up having to go to a disciplinary type hearing or somebody gets injured. Always report minor situations. You have something going on with a parent, you need to take it up to the next level, or with the coach. I'm not talking about every little, but if it becomes a pattern, you want to make sure you report those, because a minor situation can be a cry for help, and it could be a warning sign of bigger things. This is for especially dealing with your players. There may be other things going on in their life, and you may be the one person that can keep them from suicide, from harming others, from getting themselves into a situation they're never going to get out of. Okay. Minor situations can lead to major situations. After any confrontation, advise or direct the person to counseling if possible. This may not apply to you guys, but maybe they can go ahead and talk to some other family members. Maybe they can talk to someone on the board that you have designated your grievance person. Okay. Documentation will help all parties when evaluating reoccurring events. Coaches, players, or parents, if necessary, you get them to document it so that when we do go to a hearing, and I sat on that disciplinary hearing board, both at my club or the district level and at the state level, you want to make sure that you have everything documented. It's going to help us later on. I don't have anything else, but I'm certainly open to any questions that anybody may have. I hope this information is helpful. I hope these little cues and little things that I brought on, just the way to stand, the way to talk, things to say, I hope all of those will help each and every one of you dealing with whatever situation you come in contact with. And it's not just about dealing with angry parents or referees or coaches. It's also dealing with the players. It's dealing with our volunteers. It's dealing with our family members and friends. If you're able to do that, if you're able to de-escalate a situation instead of inflaming it and making it worse, you'd be surprised how much better a situation can be. So I have a question here. Say you are a referee, you make a call that makes half of the people in the stands explode. Hey, welcome to being a police officer. Go to a domestic. Half the people are going to hate you right off the bat. How do you de-escalate the situation when it's a crowd and not necessarily a one-on-one situation? First of all, if it's a situation where you think it's that bad and that there's a danger and you need to shut the game down, then that's going to have to happen. The first thing I would do is in that situation is go to my coaches, call them both over, or actually go over to them, talk to both of them in the middle and explain to them the situation, explain to them that they need to go over and talk to their parents, talk to the fans, whoever's there, and tell them and explain to them that if they can't have them in check, that we're going to have to postpone or cancel the game. Or that they'll have to remove their parents. I know that could be difficult. But again, those coaches need to be responsible for their parents to a large degree, as do the clubs. If there's a club representative there, then they need to go and deal with it as well. But I would talk to both coaches. Don't pull one out, even though I know that their fans are aggravated and upset. Pull them both over and say, this is a situation. I understand that it's mostly coming from one side, but I need you both to go over and give warnings to your fans, to your parents. to whomever's acting out, but all of them. Have them go over and give those warnings and say, listen, we're here to play a game. Okay, it's not life or death. We know what life and death looks like, and this isn't it. Take a breath. I hope that helps. Anybody else have any other questions? All right, thanks.
All right, thank you very much, Mike. If you have a question, just unmute yourself real quick and then go and ask Mike anything that's on your mind.
Not everything on your mind.
Mike, can you hear me? It's Christine.
Hey, Christine, what's going on?
Listen, I just want to say, first of all, thank you. It's really great to hear you again. It's been a long time.
Thank you.
The beard is trying to get used to all the face hair and the hair on the head.
Yeah.
But, we'll get over ourselves. And the other thing I wanted to mention tonight to the group, one of the attendees tonight is Doug Pavkovich. He is our new president of Blackhawk Club in West District. About 72 hours ago, Doug had a liver transplant, but he's here tonight. Wanted to hear your speech. And I wanted to mention that because it's just great we have people like that in soccer, and I'm pretty sure he's probably listening from horizontal position, but it was great that he could be here tonight with us.
I appreciate that. Usually my speeches put people in the hospital, but I'm glad it brought somebody out. So, hey, I understand this is going to be provided to everyone. So if anybody ever has questions, they can reach me on my email, and you're free to send that out, Tim or Tilo. Also, Tilo, something about your system, you need to check. Maybe it's your speakers or something, but you're the only one that causes feedback. I don't know what it is, but I believe it's something with your system.
Great, that's your way to shut me up.
Absolutely. Hey, everybody, thank you very much. And again, if anybody has any questions or needs additional information, you can reach me by email, or you can always reach out to Tim, Tilo, or any of the other people that I know here on the that were here today. I think I saw there was almost 36 people here, which is great. I'm glad all of you took some time out on a Wednesday night. Thank you very much, and I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Mike, even though I might sound. Thank you, everybody, for participating. That concludes our tonight together. If we don't talk to each other before Christmas, have a very safe and happy holidays, and look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you very much, and good night.
Good night.